Wait a minute, we have to get organized.
Well, I kind of like it when you're not organized.
She's gonna take whatever she wants.
Well, to begin with, you know, we got to identify that we're over here at Camp Sherman.
Well, okay.
Because people know, and where Camp Sherman is, most people don't know where it is anyhow. But
They don't?
well, I don't think they do. It's not exactly on the maps, you know.
Oh.
It'll probably come out somewhere.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
what you doing?
and also what we are doing here on the two of us on the same tape here, you know, we have to explain that we're not,
Yeah.
you know, this is not an MGM production with an $80 million budget. We've probably got a $16.50 budget. This thing and the cost of the tape is,
Yeah.
you know, to be taken into consideration. And the camera, you know, the camera crew and the whole business here. So that's why we're two of us on the same tape. Huh?
Oh, I see. We're saving money, is
Well,
the
that's
point?
okay, of course.
Well, it's more fun to have you talk together. I think that's the reason you're together. I want to hear you argue.
Well,
No.
okay. Well, now Paul's got, you know, I have no memory of Greenville.
Greenville, yeah.
So Paul, what little he has is, you know, with his, I don't know.
So what year were you born in? What was your year of birth?
I was
Paul.
1914,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
In
I was
Greenville.
1916.
Greenville.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That makes us.
Well, who was right before you? Grace?
No.
Bud.
Bud was just ahead of us.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Janet behind us.
Next oldest, yeah.
Well, Bud was how many years before you?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, see, there was one stillborn child between Bud and me.
Oh, there was.
Yeah.
Was it a girl or a boy?
I don't know.
You don't know? You don't remember? Oh, no. You
No.
wouldn't have remembered it.
No big publicity about the whole business.
No, that was why the large gap. And see, there were 9 children in 15 years. But there was this gap between Bud and me with this one stillborn child.
Didn't that create some kind of a natural division between the older 5 kids and the younger 3?
By all means, yeah, because that was a characteristic of that family. You know, you're 10 people, you know, and it was a kind of institution. You know, it was a nuclear family, but it broke into all kinds of pieces with very little parenting, and you know, the institution did most of the parenting, and a great deal. In many respects, the parents were the minor influence. It was the other sort of interaction between the older and younger segments, and then set up little cliques within that. There were the 3 older, Margaret, Dean, and Henry, who were really the dominant forces, and Bud and Grace in between, that were somehow were the lost characters.
They were that true.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In fact,
And,
they commented
whose
on.
personality development really was very diffuse.
They were really...
Never developed any strong character, either one of them. And then there were the 3 younger boys, simply by self-defense. Did manage to have some strong bond among themselves, but Janet and Bob and I, we were a little club within the larger institution.
What was the theme of your club? What was your?
Well, mainly trying to provide some sort of
Well, it's kind of a matter of salvation.
subfamily with some bonding between us that was real, because there was very tenuous bonding, with the rest of them. Because of parents, didn't have time. And,
Well, if you were gonna smell the chairs,
yeah. So we established, a whole little
Henry and
life
Dean
of
were
our
gonna do
own
that.
within the larger.
Was Dean tight? Those three older ones were kind of a tight, almost parental group, right?
Yeah.
They parented all of you.
Well, to say they were a very dominant influence, yeah. In a general way, yes.
But wasn't Margaret really almost physically in charge of you sometimes? I
Well,
mean,
more so, yes, yes.
Cleaning you?
Yeah, she was,
Yes.
yeah, she was the surrogate mother. She was the surrogate mother.
yeah.
I can still feel Margaret cleaning my ears out there.
Yeah,
You remember that? My God, my ears just
Well,
suffered
sure.
for 2 weeks afterward.
yeah.
You know.
But, you're talking about the Saturday night bath.
That's true.
Yeah, and this was a ritual which they hauled vast buckets of hot water up the back stairs
Oh, come on, Paul, we had,
to the
no, we had a bathtub.
up to the bathtub upstairs.
Yeah, but we
This
had,
long flight of steps. They had to heat it on the stove down in the kitchen
oh, you-
and carry it up the stairs.
you're talking about Seattle.
Seattle, yes.
We had a gas heater down below there that heated the water. You remember that circular gas heater that you had to go down and light?
You
Turn
you're
it
talking
on.
Eugene.
Oh, no, I'm
Yes,
talking about
the
Seattle.
room heater, the gas heater. They didn't have that in Seattle.
My God, you're right.
No.
No, okay, all right.
They
you're
heated
right.
vast buckets
that
of
out.
water and
Cut
carried
that
this up, this long flight of steps,
That's
because
Right.
in that house in Seattle, there were 12-foot ceilings. You can imagine how that
Yeah.
narrow flight of steps,
Wow.
how long that was. And filled that bathtub 4 inches deep. And then there ran Bob and Janet and Bob and me right through from back to front
Yeah.
in an
yeah.
assembly line.
You betcha. Margaret just going,
Yeah, Grace Martin.
my ears have never recovered really. And I look at Margaret, I can feel it.
Yeah,
And I bet she has no memory of it. To her, it was just,
Well, no, but she had, you see, 8 kids. She had a lot of responsibility of helping and all this kind of thing and doing this business, and I'd forget it too if I were Margaret. Yeah.
it wasn't traumatic to her. It would be traumatic. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh, yeah.
God. And I bet you she was tough at it. Big Margaret. So
Well, and
you mean
after all-
they started with the 3 little kids? They gave you baths first?
Well, I
yeah,
don't,
yeah, I'm on our way to bed. The rest of them, I presume individually. But
they probably took sponge baths. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know what they
it was
did.
Saturday night was bath.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yep.
Well, what, 2 years between you
Yeah,
and 2 years between you and Janet?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, so,
yeah, Janet was born in 1918.
yeah.
That's the reason for her middle name of Peace, you know.
oh.
Janet Peace Beistel.
Yeah,
She was
just after the,
First World War was,
yeah, it must have been, see, the war ended November 11th. So she must have been, when the hell's your birthday?
I don't,
Yeah,
you shouldn't bring that up in front of the
right
camera.
after that, yeah, in 1918. Yeah. Well, that's a lot of,
go back to Dean. I never got the impression that Dean was a very heavy-handed person like
Well, he
like
was.
Henry and Margaret.
No, he was.
Well, Dean was a person of low energy. That was
Oh, he
really-
was?
Yeah, he had the nominal authority, but a person of low energy. But Henry and Margaret are people of pretty high energy.
Well, that's true, and Dean was really not interested, you know, particularly.
Well-
He liked to play the piano,
Yeah,
he liked to sing.
Yeah.
uh,
yes, he took a
You
he
know,
was a recessive
Yeah,
role.
right, he liked to ski, he liked to, all that sort of thing.
He looks like a romantic in those pictures.
Yeah,
He looks like
yeah.
a dreamer and a romantic.
Yeah.
And you
Was he
remember,
more charming to you as a big brother?
well, he was easier to
But remote,
get along with, you
but
know.
remote,
Yeah,
Was he?
not much contact.
no, but he didn't, yeah, he didn't pressure. Henry was always, you know, do this, and Margaret was always, that kind of thing. And Grace and Bud, more, as Paul says, more laid back. It took Bud 20 minutes to really at the table to bring up something. 2 and 2 is 4.
Well, yeah, that was the development, I think, later.
Well, I know it was
yeah.
at the table.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you're talking to Eugene now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but geez, yeah. I don't know whether I noted down there anything about this, gosh. Janet would have a fit if she knew didn't talk about what we did at the table in Eugene.
That was only in Eugene? When you
So
started?
we just had the big table in Eugene in the dining room, and we didn't have a big table. Where did we eat in Seattle?
Seattle, in the kitchen, there was this monstrous table over in one corner of the kitchen.
Oh,
Yeah, the kitchen was, huge thing in Seattle, this great big mansion.
oh yes, that's
Yeah.
right. And there was the back stairs.
Yeah.
There was the pantry, and then the back stairs that went up from
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
so that the servants really were down there in the kitchen, lived down in the
Right.
kitchen.
yeah.
What servant?
Well, we didn't have them, but whoever had the house prior to us had.
Yeah, that was a
Sure.
banker's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would move down the lot
Yeah.
next to the church,
Yeah.
yeah. But,
Was that, that was a mansion? It was next to the church?
yes,
and
it was.
Yeah, it was
A bedroom for everybody and?
Well, there were, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, actually only 4 bedrooms upstairs.
Yeah.
The 2 girls in one, and Dean and Henry in another, and,
Flotsam and Jetsam.
yeah.
The rest of us on the floor?
Bud and Bob and, were
I guess that's right, we had
Yeah.
a bedroom together.
in a
Yeah.
back bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Janet, she was so small, I just put her anywhere.
Well, I think she slept in the folks' bedroom.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of that time.
Yeah, it was it had been an elegant little house. In fact, the matter is the gas chandeliers were still, you remember?
Yeah,
The gas chandeliers were still in the house,
Yeah,
in which there were beautiful things, Of course, this had been rewired for electricity.
Oh.
But,
minimally.
well, yeah.
Some naked light bulbs and some.
In the mansion?
And then there was tremendous big,
Yeah, the conversions, yeah.
the big basement to the place.
Oh, yes, yeah, almost completed, full basement.
Yeah, and it was a big house. We could show a picture of it here, but
Did you all have chores? I mean, how does one take care of a huge house like that and 8 kids and cook in those
I
days
don't
with no
know.
microwave?
I don't know.
Well, Mama was really the damnedest workhorse. She solidly from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And she did it pretty much all on her own. Yeah. She didn't get any help from her spouse with any of the housework. And she was strong, tremendous stamina.
You remember in the washing the clothes, you remember that old copper boiler thing
Yeah.
that she had? She put on the
Yeah.
stove, a gas stove,
Yeah.
and boiled this big, tremendous
A
big
lot of the
thing.
white stuff.
Yeah, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course we had an ice box.
Yeah, but very little use because we couldn't afford ice.
Oh, but there was, you remember there was a horse-drawn outfit came and
Yeah.
brought the ice?
Yeah, once on special occasions.
I don't know
we had
how
ice.
often it was, but I remember it.
Yes.
Well, how would you keep better cold and
Well, the
milk?
in the pantry, some of the cupboards had screen on the outside, and so the
Yeah, but in the
Outside
summertime, that
air.
didn't keep anything cool.
no, in the summertime the butter was just always soft.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, there wasn't any refrigeration.
Well, if she, did you wear your clothes day after day? I mean, you didn't put on new clothes every day. How could you?
No, we got fresh underwear every Saturday.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
No, that's true.
that's right, that's true.
Right.
Yes, I'm sure.
Underwear, fresh underwear and socks every Saturday.
We only had, a couple of changes of clothes.
So we would be fresh and holy on Sunday morning.
For church.
Yeah, for
Well,
church.
But all those things were wool, weren't they? The pants, the knickers,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Or
no,
cotton.
cotton.
oh,
Yeah,
cotton. So she
Yeah.
could wash those. It
Cotton.
wasn't-
cotton. Yeah. Oh yeah, there were some of those things had to be changed.
I don't know how our woolen clothes were ever cleaned. They probably never were.
No.
I mean, there was no dry cleaner.
Yeah, I don't remember much in the way of wool. Well, except wear some sweaters.
Oh, yeah,
some
plus,
sweaters. Yeah,
you had pants, some pants were wool, and a jacket that you would wear to church was wool. What would you wear to church otherwise?
well, I frankly don't remember if those were cotton or wool. Yeah.
Well, it was a rough life compared.
Well, no, it wasn't, well, we were poor, but not,
Grinding.
no, that was the standard of living of those times.
That's right.
Yeah, you're talking
Well, except for the
1918 to 1927 in Seattle. And that was a respectable level of, respectable standard of living. But, yeah,
Is that house still there?
I think so, yeah.
I haven't been by it for
Yes,
a long
yes,
time.
it was. Last time I was by, maybe 10 years ago, but it would be a
What's it used for
summer.
now?
Huh?
What's it used for, as a parsonage now, or?
Yeah, parsonage or, educational unit or whatever they do now.
Ooh, so maybe I could get into it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure you could. Sure.
You know, Judy Beistel tried to go in the house on Willamette Street, Dan's photography house, and they were real skeptical, and they didn't want her in it.
Yeah.
They didn't believe that she was a relative or something, I don't know.
No.
It was a funny experience, because I was going to do the same thing, go take pictures of that,
Yeah.
and he didn't. So I thought maybe I'd take pictures from the book, and she'd say, look,
Yeah.
this was my grandparents' house.
Sure. Sure.
Well, but cooking and all of that, it seems to me like preparing one meal in those days would have been an enormous chore.
Well, they were woman killers, there was one little, there was just one sink and a short drain board, no more than 4 feet long, and a little short one on the other side of the sink, over in one corner of this vast kitchen. It must have been, the kitchen was about 20 feet square. And then on another wall, there was a gas stove, and a wooden table next to the gas stove. And that was it. And all the walking, and then of course all the food stores and everything was in the pantry attached to it. And water had to be heated on the stove, and this stove,
To wash dishes?
gas,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, wash dishes. And of course the tea kettle was always cooking all the time.
So the gas stove was always on?
But practically, yeah. And it had just one good-sized oven down below the cooktop. And that was it.
Well,
And
then,
the other side of, the opposite side from the sink was all occupied by these collapsible things which dried the clothes.
What are you talking about, racks?
Racks, yeah, clothes racks,
Yeah.
which dried the clothes. And then in the wintertime, there wasn't any other place.
Well, incidentally, we also we burned coal there in the furnace.
Yeah.
You remember we would put
Yeah.
in whatever it was, so many tons of coal
how
there.
would you keep a house like that warm though? I mean, wouldn't that be the huge expense?
Well, yeah, it didn't get warm because this furnace created a great deal of heat which came through a register on the floor in this vast dining room.
That's right. Yeah.
And then whatever heat percolated out of that into the living room and up the stairs to the bedrooms, there were a couple of registers, little holes cut through the ceiling above the kitchen and in the dining room, and let some heat escape up the stairs to the bedrooms upstairs, but there was no heat up there.
That's true. That's, yeah.
That was all.
Did you sit on that register downstairs? Keep yourself warm? No?
Oh, yes,
You
yeah,
came down in the morning and huddled around that.
that's right,
Yeah,
that's right.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, did you have chores then, you know, like doing the coal and peeling the potatoes, and did everybody have a responsibility?
There was some, Grace and Margaret did some of the menial chores when they had time. But no, Mama just took care of most everything all by herself.
I guess that's where the energy came from that you talk about in Henry and Margaret? That real, is that real?
Well, it's a personality too. I mean, they were dominant. Well, Henry was a very smart guy. I mean, he was intelligent and also very energetic. You know.
He was a Republican and worked
Well,
for
yes.
Washington, and I
I
never
mean-
forgave him for that.
I mean, how he used his intelligence, you know, that was.
Well, I know.
Story.
Well, if you don't use it, you're not very intelligent.
Wait, what was
Jesus.
Grandpa politically?
Oh, he was Republican.
Yeah,
He
Republican.
was?
Oh, sure. That whole family, and most of that family still is 100% Republican.
Well, I guess that's true.
Bob and I are the only people that fell by the wayside.
Oh, Janet did too. Yeah. She saw the light.
Well, that's right.
She was born
Her
again.
connection, yeah, in the Printers Union, I think. Yeah, probably changed, yeah, well, and her husband, Hal, he had some sense. I had, strong influence on her too, and was a strong union man. But the rest of them all clear through were 100% Republican. They're still dyed-in-the-wool conservatives. Yeah, rabid.
I can do that in Margaret. Grace.
Well,
And
Grace,
Bud, of
Grace,
course.
Grace, sure.
all you have to do is mention
Franklin D.
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. I hate,
You've got a tirade for a half an hour.
and several times I've told Grace, I've said, well, now let's see now, exactly what do you have against Franklin D. Roosevelt? He was just a bad man. I said, bad in which way? Just all the ways you shouldn't be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Never any reason. Never any. I don't know. It may have just been that he did it, like that. My friends on on radio and sorry, I don't know what it was, but she never could he do any right. Never.
Yeah. Bud and Henry.
I never discovered where Bud was really.
Oh yes. Oh, good.
Republican?
Republican, I should say. Man, hell, with his army background and the whole thing.
I guess probably.
Yeah, I mean,
He wasn't any
he was a
Democrat.
conservative for certain.
Well, we're still in Seattle. We're gonna
Well, that's
move
okay,
out.
that's real interesting though. Your memories of the house and how it ran are things I don't know. I've never
Yeah.
heard of. I've never heard of the heat register and the
Well,
lamps.
Paul's memory is really better than mine. Of course, he'll be a couple of years older, but I had I had missions all the time, things going, I just didn't, and I like pictures. I didn't like to spend the time standing around and somebody holding me there, and getting pictures. I had better things to do than that sort of thing. Played with Herbert Hine,
Yeah, that's sure, that's developing this whole life of your own, apart from these connections
Oh, yeah.
with the hierarchy.
We had projects. We had a whole layout of roads and bridges and little towns and cars that we moved around in here. I don't remember exactly what it all was, but it was on a bank someplace, and
In that backyard, yeah.
yeah, and we had, there were all these things to do. Couldn't be bothered with mundane things.
Things that you made up though. I mean,
Well,
games you made up and activities that
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
generated by you.
Yeah. The Hines, that's just kind of a subject we haven't gotten quite to. They lived on, Reverend Hine was the pastor of the German Congregational Church at the other end of the block. And Mr. Hine was the stiffest German that you ever saw in your life. He was, all the congregation, the whole thing was in German, conducted in German, they sang it in German. The sermon was in German.
Whoa. In
And,
German? They
yeah.
all spoke German?
Oh, yes.
Well, it was, this was not long after this great wave of Germans, hit this country. And, the Middle West and in pockets on the West Coast, you had vast numbers of people just over from the old country.
And Herbert's father was? Had he
I don't
just
know whether he
immigrated?
came over. I guess he came over. He must have.
I don't know. Yeah, he very likely did.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he was so stern, and
Yeah.
he would come out every morning with a white coat on, stiffly walk out to the garage, open the door, and take this cloth that was freshly laundered and put the dust, knock the dust off his car right down to the point. You know, I mean, things were just that way. Everything.
Rigid, yeah.
He was always telling Herbert, "Ah, you this time Hazel have it." You know.
Which means
Well,
what?
I don't wonder if he ever grew up with.
Yeah, well, you're a donkey, that's,
Yeah.
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 You're a donkey?
That's the
but
only
it's
German
on
I
the
ever
side.
heard. Ever
Hazel,
knew.
ass, you know. Yeah,
This is a minister?
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, Herbert always was doing something that was not quite stiff enough or whatever.
yeah.
He caught us one time playing his marching records. Oh, my God. We flew there. Do bis ein Hazel twice. Gee. Oh, man.
But Herbert was not as stiff? Herbert was...
Oh, no, Herbert was just a kind of a loose little guy, you know, and,
Well, even Herbert, you know, as I say, even now, I mean, he's
well,
not even
Herbert's
a
probably,
Republican.
he's a Republican, but
Conservative.
I don't think
So
he's
he never
that-
quite got over the influence either, yeah. But, you know, he was, still, we're talking a kid somewhere between 4 and 10,
Yeah.
so
Well, Mrs.
doing
Hine,
what those people do.
yeah, Mrs. Hine was a nice lady. Very, I don't know how she lived with Mr. Hine, but she used to bake donuts all the time, and she'd lay them out on a big tin or whatever it was, and put them in the window outside, you know, to cool. And Herbert and I, you know, every time she brought it back in, it was always short 4 donuts or
You
whatever.
think that was your plan? Did she know?
Oh, she knew it, sure she knew that. She just
She
couldn't
was just a sweet.
bring you in and feed you donuts, but she could put that out there and you could always take those donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, she was nice. And he had 2 brothers, one of them was Kenneth, who was a friend of Dean's, and the other one was Lee Hine, who was a friend of Henry's.
Were they stiffer?
Yeah, well, Kenneth wasn't so stiff, but Lee was, yeah. Lee never got over that stiffness.
No,
He inherited that.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's right. Well, it's Herbert too. Still,
Well, no, Herbert was a looser guy.
Well, as a kid,
Yeah. Well, even that's, you know, he's not, Herbert's full of big laughs now.
yeah, well, but his politics, yeah,
Well, you can't
that's
blame
another
him.
thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Where does where does the Congregational Church start? Where,
I don't know.
Well, it's a European
Is it?
influence, yeah, yeah, it was,
Was it Congregationalism start in Europe?
yes,
Oh.
yes.
Well,
in Germany?
Well, frankly, now, between England and Germany, I can't tell you. But anyway, yeah. It pervaded somewhere in the 18th century, I think. It was one of the, in the breakdown of you know, the Lutheran Church and the Church of England, the Baptists and the Congregationalists and the Methodists, you know, all started in Europe. Yeah.
I knew that, but I didn't, Congregationalists I'd never heard of. The history and connecting it with Germany, that's real odd. So anyway, so there was Herbert's family, and Herbert was your good friend,
Yeah.
and not particularly yours.
Oh, well, yeah, but they were the constant buddies, and, you know, a 2-year gap is the relative gap at that age, you know, is pretty great.
Well, now Paul's friend were, and to some extent, I guess, Bud's were the Manning boys,
Yeah, there were
who lived across the street from the church there, who ran
an undertaker establishment, yeah,
mortuary.
mortuary, yeah.
And mortuaries, they had more money than we did. The thing I always,
Oh, yeah, they were rich.
you bet,
Really?
oh, well, sure,
They
Relative.
had ice? They had ice at their house?
they had ice at their house, yeah.
Oh,
you bet.
yes, they did. Constant ice. Constant ice.
And the thing that really got me as a little kid, and I wasn't there too much, but was up above the garage where they stored the caskets and stuff, they had this permanently laid down electric train thing that ran from room to room thing up there, you know. You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah, for
thought,
a
my
while.
God,
Oh, yeah.
wealthy people, I guess.
Yeah, they
It ran in among the caskets?
No,
Oh.
the caskets were down
were
below.
stored, yeah.
But this thing, there were a couple of rooms up there, and they had laid it down and it ran around, you know, and toot toot and all this kind of thing. Boy, I mean, geez.
Yeah, that was great luxury.
Oh,
So, I was gonna ask you something about mortuaries. Oh, no, I wasn't. So, one of those boys in that football picture, the one is
Yeah.
Manning?
yeah, Arnold Manning.
Yeah.
So what were your projects, Paul? What were you into when you're little? Were you
Good
busy
guy.
like that?
Yeah, no, I wasn't, you know, I come a blank. Just being a kid.
Well, sure, and there were all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
I can remember, I always had projects of building things that had to do with, I remember, I always had the hammer out. They got the hammer out of the tool drawer. Then he'd get, you know, we'd lose it, and then we'd probably get another hammer, and I always left the hammer out there wherever it was, and I built little things, well, you know, the roads I was talking about and all this kind of business. I never brought the tools back. Never.
Oh, does any child? No.
I guess
Yeah,
not.
that's
but
right. Yeah.
That was a bad habit I had learned early there. But they would generally go out and pick them up if they could find them, otherwise they'd buy new ones.
Was your dad manual like that? Did he
No.
build? Not at all?
No,
Nothing around
he
there?
was a gardener though. He was a gardener. He was always out spading up something.
Well, yeah, he, sporadically.
Yeah,
But he
but-
did come from, you know, a farm family.
Oh,
So that, he had some knowledge of horticulture.
However, he always explains there that he was a very spindly boy or whatever
Yeah.
term he used.
He could never make, his father, determined that he would never make his living as a farmer. He
No.
was too weak. And so, that's why they sent him off to, normal school, to become
Yeah.
a teacher.
Yeah.
normal school.
Yeah.
Normal school. What an
Normal
odd
school.
name.
Oh,
That's where all teachers got their training.
Yeah.
And
Well, what do you mean he was weak? Did he appear
physically,
weak?
yeah. But
I mean, was he
well,
sick?
he was small.
Well, I don't.
Most
Yeah,
of us.
I don't think he was terribly weak. I think he was just babied.
Could be.
Well, he
He
had-
had 7 sisters.
7 sisters. Yeah.
He
See.
had 7 sisters.
And I think he was the only thing around there to be babied, and I think he just got, weak that way.
Yeah, well, at least he had that reputation. And of course, farming demanded a great deal of physical work.
Mhm.
And boy,
You
there
must-
weren't many machines that did very much.
Mhm.
So that unless a person were very strong physically, no chance of him making success in farming.
You know, well, I want you to finish talking about your neighborhood, but then I also want you to talk about school, what the school experience
Oh,
was.
yeah. But Lowell School was the school that we went to, that's a good subject really, because it was about, what would you say, 8 or 10 blocks from the house or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, 7 or 8 blocks,
Yeah, and looking at it recently, or relatively recently, it looks like a prison to me, you know.
Okay, yeah,
It really does.
well, there was a great deal of
And it-
prison psychology involved in education at that
Yes,
time.
everything was stern there, you see, and we were just discussing it all the way up
Authoritarian.
here.
Yeah,
You bet, because you lined up outside the school, and the music played, you know, and you march, 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 march in your classroom. You marched in there, you know, beat it to the beat, and then you made the turn and walked up the stairs to do.
No.
That's the way you did it.
Really?
yeah,
And then you walked down at certain times, or you marched down at certain times to the big assembly room down below, and you sang these patriotic songs, you know, and the sort of thing. March, march. It was really, really,
Rigid.
oh yeah.
oh, yeah.
Perfect
Yeah.
place for Margaret and Henry.
Yeah, you remember the Rock Sisters? They were the teachers there, stern,
Well, all of them, of course, were assumed that role.
Well, not the kindergarten teacher I had was the only one that ever made me a pet, you know. I don't know why she did that, but I can remember that I got to close the dollhouse or do whatever the things were in there, you know. And the other kids hated the hell out of me, really, you know, because I was a pet. I don't know why I was a pet. Maybe I was a sickly child. I don't know.
No, I think, no, you were robust, yes.
But
Did they, could they spank you? Did they spank you? Did they hit you? Was there corporal punishment at that time?
I guess so, wasn't there?
Well-
I never got hit, but I think at times you had.
I think there was a great fear of the principal, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that, you know, if this was to be sent to the principal's office.
You bet you wet your pants and waiting
right.
outside there. You
Yeah.
bet. Doggone right.
And I don't remember ever confronting him, but at least that was a legend. And
I was reminding Paul of the fact that we danced around the maypole, you know, back there, and we learned these little dances where you go around 2 and you eliminate 2, and then you eliminate 3 and do 1 and all this kind of thing, and then make these patterns up there on the maypole.
Did it work?
Huh?
Did it work?
Well, it worked. Yeah, we did these things on certain days late in the year, or not late in the year, but late in the school year when it was warm outside. You know, we had these big maypoles.
yeah,
Remember
well,
that thing?
in the month of May, yes.
Yeah.
Was education a lot tougher? Did you, is your reading material a lot stiffer than it is now, do you think, or do you know?
Oh, yes, oh, of course, yes, and that, nobody ever got out of the 3rd grade without learning the multiplication table.
No.
No, that was just it.
Mhm.
Everybody learned the multiplication table up to 12 times 12
Till 12?
in order to get out of the 3rd grade. Each one of those, and you would learn to write by the Palmer method.
Right.
Yeah,
You bet you
rolling your whole arm.
And look what came out of it.
All of these, because I was left-handed,
Right.
so I,
Oh, no, you were?
Oh, yeah.
sure, so I
Ooh.
wrote like this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, it was patterned instruction, and there wasn't any deviation. But everybody got educated. They're a hell of a lot better educated than the kids are these days.
Oh, I should say so. The Rock Sisters made
Yeah.
I'm sure. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they just a scowl from them. Oh, that's,
When I got out of grade school, I mean, you really had basic basic solid stuff, skills, nothing else. And, you know, civics and history and arithmetic.
So you were in none of this one-room schoolhouse. You were in a third grade classroom with 30 kids or something, right?
Yes.
I mean, stayed with your grade.
You stayed your,
and you
your
moved through
class.
there like that.
Oh, yes.
And did kids flunk?
Did they flunk?
Yeah, did kids ever flunk then?
I
Oh,
never
yeah.
flunked anything,
Yeah,
but I guess
well,
they
it
did.
just dropped out. I was moved up a grade for 1 month, but let's see, the second and third grade, there was some flexibility, but then moved back because it didn't seem to work out socially. So there were, you know, some common sense deviation from patterns, but nevertheless, the standards were rigid. You know, there was the vast bulk of people just went through all the steps at each level, and when they got out, at least you were ready to go to high school. And see, this grade school was, you know, well, you say kindergarten, you know, to 8, and then high school. From
Yeah.
12, yeah.
Yeah. Also, it was in, I think, the third grade that I first got glasses, you know. I didn't know that, you know, I couldn't see the stuff up on the blackboard. And, you know, and the other kids seemed to be able to understand this kind of thing, and I didn't know what it was, but I couldn't see it, I couldn't
I know.
focus it.
You wouldn't, yeah.
And finally, one of the Rock sisters sent a note home or called the folks up or whatever and said, my goodness, you know, you realize that little boy can't see, you know? And they said, well, we didn't know that, you know, because why did you have to focus things when you were a little kid? It didn't particularly playing. So anyhow, they took me down to this woman oculist and got little horn-rimmed glasses on me.
Yeah.
And I went to school the next day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Here was stuff up there just sharp as could be on that. I thought, well, my God, you know. No wonder those kids were so damn smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Tell about your little umbrella episode, Paul, going to school.
Oh, well.
You used to take that umbrella.
Oh, yeah, well, we were forced to take this umbrella to school. And of course, this was a great inconvenience because other kids weren't carrying umbrellas to school. So we'd walk across the street in this public park where the vast area of shrubbery, and we would hide it in the shrubbery a block and a half from home, and then pick it up on our way back. Except that somebody apparently saw us putting it there and took the umbrella, so we were
Yeah.
we were in trouble. Yeah, we had to admit it.
You want to take a break for a second?
Hmm?
Do you want to take a break for a second? Go to the bathroom or something?
Well, I don't have to go to the bathroom, but then get some more coffee there.
Okay, the camera knows that.
Well, you know, it's just getting back to the time when we first came out to Seattle. There was the great flu epidemic.
Yeah, it was shortly after the war, yes.
Yeah, that.
And it killed many. It was a very deadly strain of flu.
That's true.
And it killed millions of people throughout the country.
Well, I don't know, millions.
Yes,
Did it?
yes,
Really?
yes, it did.
Well, I know it was a great thing that you had to wear these masks on to keep from spreading the flu. And I can kind of remember that faintly. As you say, you couldn't get on public transportation without it.
Yeah.
And disease was, there weren't all these antibiotics and the whole business, or there was nothing really.
Yeah.
I don't think they even had
In fact,
aspirin.
and many of the vaccines they have now, they didn't have. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had for smallpox, but not much else, you know.
Well, then it brings to this matter the thing that Grace and Henry got scarlet fever, which, and they had to be taken to a sanitarium to get over this sort of thing, to keep from spreading scarlet fever all over. And the house was quarantined, and they put a big sign up there, a big red or purple sign or whatever it was. And
Yeah, on the
front porch.
front by the door.
Sure.
Yeah, to warn people that there was disease in the house.
And when you got through and got the people back, you had to what did they
Fumigate.
Fumigate.
Fumigate the house.
Yeah.
With
Which
sulfur
was-
candles.
Which was ridiculous, because you sure that didn't do any good.
But anyway, that was a public health measure.
Well, of course, but it was just
Yeah.
because the sulfur industry needed it.
Well, I don't know what else was in the fumigation candles, but it filled the house with
Yeah.
fumes of some sort, and you had to stay out of it for I don't know, some 18 hours or something of the sort. And that was true of each thing that came along, measles and scarlet fever, and diphtheria, and so forth, all of those, which were very current. I was just swept through in epidemics.
How did they get over scarlet fever though? What, you didn't have antibiotics or?
No, didn't. They just wrote it out.
I guess
Yeah.
that was it, just to keep
Yeah.
from spreading it was the reason they
Yeah.
went to the sanitarium.
Yeah.
And some of the other diseases, that I remember reminding Paul on the way up here, Mama had hung sheets soaked in Lysol water,
Yeah.
up over the doorways,
Of this, yeah, the sick room.
yeah, to keep from, the disease.
The fumes of the diseased person from infecting the house.
Yeah.
Ooh, does that smell bring back that memory?
Oh, yeah.
When you smell
Yeah.
Lysol?
Oh,
You
yeah,
bet.
I know what Lysol was. That was
Yeah.
Well,
universal disinfectant.
your memory of her spraying that stuff in your mouth? Or was that Margaret that said that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had sore throats. Why, they'd spray your nose and throat with some sort of nasty stuff. Yeah.
And then when you had anything else, you got Castoria.
Yes.
I can still
Yeah,
taste
for-
Castoria. That
Yeah,
was
for
horrible.
all sorts of stomach aches. Yeah, then the purge.
That was right.
It was the answer. Yeah.
Oh,
And it
my
probably
body
did-
got rid of that stuff about as fast as
Right.
it could. That was terrible. I don't
Probably
know.
did more harm than good, but nevertheless, it was good for your spirit.
It's amazing she didn't Lysol you. It seems like she was on a roll getting gets through everything and,
Right.
Well, sure. If you happened to go by when she had the Castoria bottle out, you got a shot of that stuff. You need a good cleaning out, she'd say.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ooh. I preferred castor oil to Castoria. Ooh. But I got Castoria. Mm.
Well, now your appendicitis attack was in Eugene, or was it in Seattle?
Yeah.
Well, what about, there was a Jewish family, right? In the
Oh,
neighborhood?
yes, yeah. Yeah, there was the Hymans. And there was the Callahans lived next door, and the Hymans, they were milliners, which, you know, was made hats, they sold hats, women's hats. And they were very nice people, really.
Mhm.
Snooky was the youngest one,
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah, he was,
And what was the next one up?
oh gosh, Mickey.
Mickey Hyman. And then,
There were some others up on Dean and Margaret's level.
well, that was the attorney that he was the nicest guy. He used to, if you remember, he used
That's
to
right, yeah.
take us over there and tell us stories underneath the chestnut trees there in front of
Yeah.
their house
Yeah.
in the summertime. Gosh, it was a nice guy.
The father or the
No,
older brother?
that's
the oldest boy.
Yeah.
He became a prominent attorney there in Seattle. Gosh, what was his name? Well,
I don't know.
anyhow.
So